Alrighty, welcome to episode 222 of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As usual, it's been a pretty busy news week. Tesla has revealed a much anticipated though ultimately disappointing update of its flagship Model S and X. Disappointingly, the upgrades are all but cosmetic, consequently guaranteeing these models will not be reintroduced into Australia anytime soon due to the lack of implementation of steer-by-wire technology. And that was this week's news. A rather short but sweet bit of news. And once again, welcome everyone to this week's episode of Tokwa's Ask Us Anything. As is customary, and if you are comfortable in doing so, if you are new, please unmute and say hello. Or perhaps a little bit later in the program. Alrighty, has anyone got any opening questions or comments? Nope. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on next week's program. Um, Obviously, it's disappointing. I think very disappointing that Tesla's Model S and Model X refreshes fell far short of what I think some people were expecting. A lot were hoping that because it's such a low volume, those two vehicles are built in such low volumes, that Tesla would actually take the time to implement some of the changes that have come about through the Cybertruck. And the big one there, which would have been great for Australia, would have been steer by wire, which then meant that the cars could easily have been produced in a right-hand drive configuration and then obviously come to right-hand drive markets. But alas, it seems that's just not happening. So I for one, am an X owner, and yeah, I've still got a refreshed Model X on order, but it's obviously not going to come to Australia probably before the Cybertruck. So it is what it is. Alrighty, if you had any time to think about a question, if anyone got one,
Uh, yes, I do. If
Chris.
someone can
Yeah,
hear me, yeah.
yes, absolutely. Welcome.
Um, yeah. Thank you for having me here. Hello, everyone. Um, I've got a question. I've got a Model S that I've had for about 8.5, almost 9 years. So
Yes,
P100D. So had it for a long time. Amazing car, love it. Having big problems with the chargers and basically it, it came to me with a wall mount charger
yep,
and that sort of stuff. Um, and I didn't install it the way they wanted me to, as in hardwire it. I
yep,
put a three-phase plug on it,
yep.
and I've got an electrical background, but I actually had a Sparky mate of mine do it anyway. So, but I can't work out why there's any difference between that, and it worked fine. And then it stuffed up, and they gave me another one under warranty, and they sent their Sparky out, and he said, "Oh, we're not meant to do it where it plugs into the wall. It's meant to be officially
Hardwired.
hardwired."
Yep.
And I'm like, it's right next to the switchboard coming out of an outlet. And the reason I did it that way is that if I go out on site, a lot of places I go to in regional Victoria, I can actually, um, we've got three-phase generators there. I can plug it straight in, so I can just charge it up whilst I'm out there.
Yep.
And um, it worked. Anyway, so they gave me another one, and we wired that up. It worked fine. And then for whatever reason, they sent someone out to do there's a recall or something. There was something wrong with an earth bond or within the car, nothing to do with the charging. And
Yes.
whilst I had the guy out there, he said, "Oh, I mentioned, oh, I'm having intermittent problems with this charger." And he goes, "Oh, this is a common fault." And he gave it a twist on the plug
Ah,
as
yes. Yes.
where it goes into the car, and
Yes.
it worked again.
Yes.
And I spoke to Tesla about that later when it didn't work, and they denied everything about that. Go, no, no, it's because you haven't got it wired
Okay.
correctly.
Yep. So I can tell you definitively because I've had the same experience. These are the
Mm,
generation two. Well, actually, for Australians, we basically mostly had one generation, which was it's actually the second version. It's three
mm,
phase. It's not the current slimmer, smaller one. It's the older one, and
yeah.
it is absolutely true. The problem I think is that when all cables, flexible cables are wound in a spiral fashion, that they
Mm,
actually the the three phases and earth and even the control pilot and presence pilot wires are in a spiral, and they
yep.
do that so that when you bend the cable, the length of all of the sub cables is equal because it's in a spiral. If you didn't do that, you'd actually be over tensioning the outer diameter wires compared to the inner diameter, so they have them in a spiral. But it seems that that spiral was over tightly done, and the presence pilot and control pilot wires are very thin. They're actually much thinner than the power cables, and if the control pilot gets fractured, the car stops charging immediately because it hasn't got a proper control signal to the charger. And you're dead
Mm,
right. The number of times I've had to go in a few sites and basically twist for a while, if it's not severely broken, you can sort of twist the cable and it will then start working. And as long as you sort of like then just sort of leave it and don't touch it, it'll work for the rest of the charging session. That is
mm,
absolutely a worldwide known phenomena and is a fault of the original manufacturer of the cable.
mm.
So I
But
don't know how you're going to go
um,
with Tesla to try and say, look, you know, and everyone knows that this is the case. And
yeah,
that's the
because
issue. So it's not your installation. By the way, in Australia, it is permitted to have an EVSE, which is the car charger, attached to a building via a removable plug. That is permitted within AS slash NZS 3000. In Interestingly, in New Zealand, it is not permitted. So in New Zealand, it's actually mandatory that an EVSE is hardwired to a building. But in Australia, it
okay.
is not recommended, but permitted.
Mm,
So please don't get deflected by the way it was installed. It's got nothing to do with it. I assume when they replaced the charger, it was of the same type. It was the older style, not the brand new style, which has more like a glass sort of a. It's well, in fact, it's the front. It's a totally different color. It's white, and the one you've got has got a silver sort of front.
it's silver,
Yeah.
silver front.
So
Yep, both
unfortunately,
of them do. Yeah,
yeah. So unfortunately, you're suffering from that control pilot fractured cable. So
yeah.
if you want to bash your head against the wall, go back to Tesla and say, look, it's the actual control pilot cable or wire in this cable. That's the problem.
Mm,
Better still, if you can actually get your phone and take a video, and if you can replicate it whereby it doesn't work when you plug it in, you put like a loop in the cable and plug it in and it works, that'll be the clincher. Then they'll just go, oh yeah, okay, you've got us. And then they'll basically
mm,
have to replace it. Alternatively,
yeah,
you can get one for $800, I think, delivered to your door, and well,
yeah,
just yeah. Now
yeah.
speaking of which, you've got a P100D, so
Yeah,
is it past the 8 years or is it just before the 8 years old?
just passed.
Oh, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
so I
yeah.
trust your battery's
All
doing okay. It's doing well.
haven't had a problem. I mean, I it doesn't do many kilometers. It's only got 40 some thousand Ks on it.
Yeah, right,
It's
cool.
one of various vehicles I drive. But
Yep.
yeah, it's just one of those things. And I thought, it sounds a bit odd. And the fact that when this guy happened to come out, totally unrelated, and just said, "Oh, this is a common thing," and then he just twisted the,
Yes.
and all of a sudden it started charging. I was like, "Wow, okay." Hmm. Anyway,
Yep, that's the
it's
clincher. So, like I said, um, by all means, give it a go to challenge the guys at Service,
yeah.
um,
And failing that, I'll just buy another charger for $800 and
and move
yeah,
on. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So
Look, Tesla,
mm,
it's never too late to do the right thing as far as things go. So you can always give Tesla the benefit of the doubt and encourage them to do the right thing. But
mm,
sometimes and also do mention the fact that the Ranger came out, the Tesla Ranger, the mobile tech came out
mm,
and actually said exactly what you just said. Um,
yeah,
and if you recall who they were, say who they were, or even if not, if you recall, you can look up your service history
yeah.
and look up what date that was, and you can say the service tech who arrived at my place on this date said it's a common thing. We all know about it, and then that will help your
I
case.
didn't. He was a really nice guy. I didn't really want to dob him in, so
No, no, no.
I was
It
like,
wouldn't be dobbing him
yeah,
in because he's out in the field. He knows about it. Now
mm,
the other thing too
yeah,
is the person you talk to behind the service desk is not is almost never a technician. They are a
mm,
service liaison person
mm,
and they are usually highly un uh, skilled in automotive engineering or in as being they're not technicians. So
yeah,
in one sense, it's not that surprising that the person behind the counter may never have heard of
mm,
this
okay,
personally.
yeah,
But Tesla themselves, they absolutely know all about it, as in corporate wise, they know.
mm,
So give it a go. And look, and just mention the service tech. You're not dobbing him in. It's not like, you know,
mm,
Tesla, unlike car dealers, there isn't that tension between the car dealer who sort of has a bit of a battle between they're like the second party in between you and the manufacturer. And of course, it's in the manufacturer's interest to try and encourage the car dealers to sort of vet out warranty claims wherever possible because they're in this kind of interdependent ecosystem and it's in their mutual benefit to sort of shut down warranty claims. Tesla's the
yeah,
opposite. They, particularly with the cars, they actually want to know what's going on because then they can use it as a direct path to improve the product, which is what they is their greatest interest to
mm,
reduce costs down the line. So anyway, that's a very long answer to a pretty short question, but yeah, do re-challenge them and invite them to replace it again. But this
yeah.
time with the new generation, for which that cable problem hopefully should be sorted.
Okay, so the new generation will have a white front on it. So
Oh
that's
yes,
what,
yeah.
yeah.
If you look on the Tesla, you can actually buy it through your Tesla app, or if you look on
Mm,
just at tesla.com, I'll show you what it
okay,
looks like.
yeah.
2 seconds.
I think even Bunnings sell them now. It's like when I was Googling, it
Which
was
is
like,
quite, yeah, which is amazing. Once Bunnings starts selling something,
mm,
uh, you know that your product's gone mainstream. Either that, or you know it's in great trouble. Here we go. If we go to shop and then charging, you can actually already
yeah,
see from that image there
yeah,
that the wall connector
yeah,
is it's
different
a
color.
white color and it's actually a it's I don't know if it's glass, but it sort of looks like glass and it's sort of been it's transparent on the front and then it's got the milky
Mm,
sort of appearance behind.
yeah,
And it's $800 delivered to your door,
yeah,
7.3 meters. And one good thing is the cable's a lot slimmer, even though it's still rated at 32 amps three phase. So yeah,
yeah.
if it all becomes too annoying, then if you just chuck
I
eight,
think by memory it puts out 16 amps single phase, 32 amps. Oh, sorry, 16 amps three phase, 32 amps single phase.
the old generation would actually do 32 amps three phase.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the new generation. I think it might have a split between 32 amps three phase and 16 single phase. Sorry, 32 single
Yeah,
phase
the other
and
way. Yeah.
16 three phase, possibly, which means they
Yeah.
might be economizing on the L2 and L3 cables. But
Mm.
I do stand to be corrected. If actually, James, can you please have a look on the instruction manual for the installation manual of Gen 3? It's one or the other, but the main thing is all cars, all Teslas built today, imported into Australia,
Mm.
only draw 16 amps three phase, so it's fine.
Yeah, because it just takes forever because they gave it also came with the little, single phase 10 amp charger,
Yes, yep,
and it just takes forever to
yeah,
charge
you're
it
getting
on that
10
thing.
k's of range per hour. It's pretty slow.
Yeah, you got to put it on all night every night. It's like,
Yes, yeah, indeed. No, the HPWC or the wall connector, what's now known as the wall
mm,
connector, is great, and we highly recommend anyone that buys a Tesla and you've invested dozens of thousands of dollars, a mere
mm.
$800 for a wall connector, meaning that you've got first world AC charging in your house, is super convenient
Um,
because
oh,
you know
yeah.
it just is.
Look, it's and again, it's a great car. I've got no complaints, and yeah, it costs like $250,000 at the time or whatever. But
Yes, it
it's
did.
it's it is what it is, and it's
Yep. And
good.
if you had
But,
invested that $250,000 in Tesla shares, just quietly, those shares today would be worth $4 million. But that's
yeah,
hindsight, Harry. And you've enjoyed the use of the car for 8 years, so
yes,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
it's all
Anyway,
good.
that is hindsight. Thank you very much for your time, and
No
Hey,
worries.
hey, Chris.
hello
Chris.
everyone, and I'll just listen to everyone else now.
Hey, Chris. Just a quick question. Do you
Mm,
do you know your Model S? Is it the
mhm.
one that had the 22 kilowatt AC charging, the one with the two inverters, or is 11
It
kilowatts?
doesn't,
Was that
Pete.
the?
It doesn't. It doesn't. That's the P100s were the refreshed Model S, and that had the up to 17 kilowatts. But you have to pay several $1,000s to get the charger software upgraded to draw 24 amps three phase rather than 16 amps three phase.
Got it. Okay, no problem. Yeah, I was just going to say in that case it would have been better off with the second gen HPWC, but yeah,
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, no, those that was a refreshed S. It's the well, it's this what do you call it? Not the nose cone, it's refreshed. It's got the non nose cone bumper, the much better looking one.
yeah, okay.
Alrighty. Anyone else got any other? Oh, sorry, Mike, you've got your hand up.
May I ask about your Karatha trip?
Yeah, so yeah, that was just a day trip up to Karratha.
Yeah, it's
Fifteen
not
hundred and
bad.
fifty k's each way, one on the first day and then back on the second day. Um, it ended up being a little bit. Well, it started very frustratingly because on we had our last Wednesday we had the show. I think I just got back from my lap. I had to get I went to I had a service request to get a tow bar fitted, which went well. Get my windscreen replaced, that went well, and get my headlights adjusted because I think I mentioned that last week that my headlights, that the adaptive high beams seem to have a bit of an issue where they're throwing light to the right hand side of where they should be. And actually, we might discuss it a little bit more in detail a little bit later because I personally believe, without being alarmist, I believe that I'm now believing that probably nearly every, if not all, junipers in Australia have this same issue. And obviously, it's something that Tesla's going to have to address with a software update. But anyway, so I went to O'Connor, got the tow bar, got the new windscreen, and then asked them to align the headlights just in case it was some weird alignment issue that was offset or whatever. So I take off rather early from Perth on Saturday, and as I'm driving along, mainly once I got off the freeway, I started getting flashes, and I knew the adaptive, and this was without the adaptive high beams. So every time a vehicle would come the other way, I'd turn the high beams off and only be on low beam. Every single car that went past me, or sorry, went past me in the opposite direction, flashed me. and I could actually see that the low beams, rather than sort of being down at a sort of like a slight angle to the road and to the trees and bushes either side of the road, they were actually facing upwards. And it's like, oh no. And then I thought I could try and resort to just turning the headlights off. But the problem is you can't turn as soon as you turn the headlights off while you're in autopilot aborts instantly. It just says, no, I'm not driving without headlights, you idiot. So I had a fraught, I left at 2 a.m. and it was dark until 6:30. So I had 4.5 hours of every single vehicle that went past would flash me aggressively going, why are you blinding me, you idiot? So anyway, I was glad that the sun came up and then I didn't have to use the headlights. And then when I got to Nanyatara, I think I got there at 5 o'clock or something, and I was charging for a while. And thankfully, it then became dark while I was charging. And then I just pointed my car towards a couple of piles of sand and quickly and dirtily sort of adjusted my headlights downwards in the hope that that would be okay, and it kind of was. So yeah, that the trip sort of started off rather fraught, and then turned out all right. I think I got to Karratha at about 9 o'clock, which was nice, and charged up. I dropped off. What it was I had a consignment of tools that that a gentleman by the name of Jacko, who, by the way, he has installed about 25% of all the WAV network chargers. And he was actually returning with Pete's car, one of Pete's cars, from Majura Pass, having commissioned Kaiguna connected and commissioned the Kaiguna and Majura Pass chargers. So my car was just chockers full of tools and this huge testing box and stuff and bags and whatever. So yeah, so I went to Jacko's place in the light industrial area in Karratha, dropped the tools off, then went to the WEV network charger in Karratha, plugged in, and yeah, then what I do is plug in on the Kempower, go to the hotel room, have a shower, get ready, walk back, unplug, and then drive the car back. So you're sort of fast charging while you're doing something useful, and then go to bed, wake up next day, leave at 2 o'clock, and then come back to Perth. So yeah, it was a good trip. Had a few kangaroo sightings, couple of cow sightings. So yeah, it was.
I sort of wanted to ask about it because I saw your posts, because I know maybe I'm stupid, but I follow you on X. So there was a chap asked about, did the autopilot detect the roos and the cows? And he asked the second question because I don't think he phrased it right the first time. And so the question is, did you have autopilot on, and did it detect the kangaroos and the cows?
Okay, so the obvious answer is I always have autopilot on whenever I can.
Yeah.
The problem was that, and it's just human factors, clearly when you see a threat on the road, your eyes are just locked onto that, and you're trying to work out what these things are going to do. And in fact, I'll just bring up one post, which is this one.
So I'm thinking, like, did it automatically brake though for you, thinking that there's something in front? Which is
I was already on the brakes well before then. So
okay, so you reacted first, right?
Oh yeah, of course. So I reacted. I mean, you've got to be acutely, like you see these three roos, and of course one goes to the right, one goes to the left. Oh no, I'll go to the right. The other one goes, oh, I'm just going to like hop along for a bit and then get bored of it. So the problem is, when you see something like that, you're just locked onto it. I'm already on the brakes. I'm already slowing down. Don't know what they're going to do next. What I would like to have done, ideally, if I had a passenger, is passenger glues their eyes on the screen and sees what the car sees. Yeah. And even if it saw humans or kids or something, if it saw something, that would be useful. But yeah, unfortunately, I just wasn't looking at the screen at the time. I was looking through the windscreen.
So that's fine.
Yeah. Well, you've got
goats when I see kangaroos.
Goats.
No, dogs.
Oh,
It
dogs.
shows. It
Oh,
shows.
right.
It shows dogs either running across or it shows dogs doing jumps.
Oh, okay.
Which is
Interesting.
probably pretty accurate. Yeah, that's probably quite good actually. Um, so what I did, I think I did mention on one of the X posts was I should really set myself up with a GoPro just sort of in the middle of the car so it can see the windscreen and the MCU screen, and just have that recording the whole time, and just save a clip every now and then if I see kangaroos. On my ninth, sorry, on my last lap in the Juniper in the refresh Model Y, I was on the way towards Broome, and it did actually slow down for, I think it was a cow, and it did do that, but often it doesn't, which is a bit frustrating. But again, autopilot has not been actively worked on for several
Oh,
years
yeah, yeah.
now,
No, I was just
and
interested.
yeah.
And I guess
Um,
a final comment before James got his hand up. Everybody realizes here that Harold is looking slightly less old than the rest of us because he's moving all the time due to relativity. He's a couple of microseconds younger than us.
Hang on, let me just. Yep, it's good for aging. Yeah, that
Yes,
those few microseconds count.
yes.
Trust me.
Thanks,
Dearie
Harold.
me. No worries. Thanks, mate. James.
I've just put into the chat a Facebook post asking about the Juniper headlights. It does seem to be a very widespread problem.
Actually, since you've
Yeah,
mentioned,
Thingy's Model Y, Ryan's Model Y was posting about it too.
yeah, he actually sent me a question on. He sent me a message on X a number of days ago asking what my experiences were, given that I'd just done 14,000 Ks in it and had a lot. The classic, what it does, and I was fortunate in one of the places I was at, there was fog. This was during my lap. So this will give you an idea of what it does. So here is the truck, obviously, and it's going to start triggering soon to do the adaptive high beams. And what it does, let's just move it along a little bit, is you see it here. That's the blackout region, and it's offset to the right of what it should be blacked out to. So you can see that very clearly in this foggy sort of landscape.
Mm,
And then I think
interesting.
as you come around the corner, a car comes the other way, and you'll see the blackout actually moves across to here. Oh, sorry, that bit there. So that's just the other vehicle. So that's the error that is occurring. Is basically the setup. Now, my pet theory is being an engineer and doing software and stuff. You're sort of you're not lazy, but you do what's the most efficient way to get a job done. And obviously, like in Australia, we have our low beams have I think they call it the pedestrian sort of, they light up the left-hand corner of the road deliberately so that you can see things like pedestrians a bit better. Obviously, you don't light up the right-hand side of the road because there are oncoming cars. So there's obviously an asymmetry between left and right-hand drive cars. Now, if I was a Tesla engineer, software engineer, I might have gone, well, these are matrix headlights, and to set up these different beam patterns, they're just pixels, and it's almost like having a JPEG image, and you just like tell it which pixels to paint for low beam and other stuff. So one theory I have is, well, what if they just got a bit slack and said, well, if it's a left or right-hand drive car, you just invert the x-axis, so you just basically make everything the opposite. Now, if you do that, it might mean that there might be an error, like a positional error, left or right, that is global to that whole setup. And they might not have realized that. The problem is, the Juniper's been out now for more than a month, probably, in the eastern states. And in WA, well, actually probably about a month as well. most people driving around Perth or around the cities, there's a lot of street lighting, so the adaptive high beams don't really come on that often. Like, not everyone uses autopilot on quiet streets, where it's often darker. So there won't be all that many people that would actually realize that the adaptive high beams is an issue. And if you're driving on things like freeways, you've got the center barrier, you might get the odd flash, but you don't really think much about it because you're not really thinking about it. It's not an issue that you're aware of. I became acutely aware because I'm in the middle of the bush with trucks coming the other way and they're flashing me because it's their workplace and they're getting annoyed. So then I sort of think more deeply about it. So yeah, I think sadly, I think every single car, every single Juniper in probably in all the right-hand drive markets have got this problem. Because if you go to America and you see the YouTube videos of the adaptive high beams, they work perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So like I said, I think we're going to get a software update, and it's going to be the classic minor upgrades and bug fixes, except just quietly, it's a rather large bug fix. So, but anyway, that doesn't take away from the fact that these cars are literally awesome and an
Harold,
absolute pleasure.
can I just tell you, a friend of mine got his first Tesla, and it's a Juniper. And after a week or two, he actually sent me a message asking about the adaptive headlights.
Great.
And
Yep.
he said he was getting flashed by people on the freeway.
Yep.
He was asking.
Perfect.
So,
Okay.
is there any
Tell
particular
him
action you suggest him to do?
nothing. Do nothing.
Okay.
Because I would have actually yesterday I would have said, can you get him to please go and contact Tesla service to put in a service request? I believe now Tesla are very much aware of it.
Okay.
Because through Facebook, there was another gentleman on our Facebook group that actually did a service request, and he actually mentioned in a post that both he and I had put in requests, and Tesla are dealing with it. So, I've given them some of these videos. It sort of gets to a point where they will very quickly know that something's wrong, and they're going to escalate it. I think the problem is, it's going to take a little bit of time to put a fix in place and verify it, and then work out which software update they can package it to. Because I've come to learn that software updates, they go through a long verification process when they make alterations, even though errors sometimes creep in. So it may take some time. Tesla, like I said, Tesla are very much aware. There's nothing he can do. So you cannot adjust it. I mean, you could try and do the extreme of adjusting your headlights, 5 degrees or 7 or 8 degrees to the left, but I'd recommend you don't do it. The other thing too was you can go. Tesla have, and everyone can do this. You can register with Tesla service. So there's a website which is called service.tesla.com, and you can just I'm not sure if you have to register it, but you can basically you can certainly input your Tesla credentials. So your Tesla, the email address that Tesla uses for you, or you use for it, and your password. If that doesn't work, you then have to just go register and just use the same credentials. Now, the problem that I was presented when my high beams were adjusted was, if you look at the 2025 service manual and you go into exterior electrical, and you go down to the headlights, which is this one, exterior lights, and you have a look at adjust headlights global wall method, test adjust. So you have a look at this, and it tells you to put a reference line at 61 centimeters, and then it tells you to do vertical lines 77 centimeters either side of the center line, and then you throw up you go into your service, not service mode, but just the service tab of your menu, and then you go left and right and you can adjust the headlights. Now that's for the refreshed Model Y. we go back to the Model Y, the old Model Y, and again go to electrical, and you can see from the image that's it's the classic Model Y, and then you go to lights, which I must have just skipped there, lights, and go down to adjust global. Oh no, not the tool method, sorry, it had to be the other method. It's just the headlights adjust wall method. Okay, and then because this is what Tesla did to me, is you draw up the reference line, but you put the tape on the wall 79 centimeters. Oh, sorry, it was 81. Where's the 81? There it is, 81 centimeters. So the reason why that's different is the headlights on a refreshed Model Y are 20 centimeters lower than the headlights on the old Model Y. And the point of having this tape, and you have to measure it 25 feet from the wall, is the beam should be slightly going downwards at a slight angle. I think it's a couple of degrees. Now, if your headlights are mounted higher, obviously the tape is higher, so you get that 2-degree slope downwards. They presumably just presumed that, headlights are headlights, it's all the same, it's a Model Y. They used the old tape reference of 81 centimeters when it should have been 61. So my low beams, rather than going downwards at 2 degrees, were probably going upwards at 5 degrees. And that was blinding everyone. So I had the double whammy. But you basically, please don't adjust your headlights yourself. You could, if you want to sort of create a bit more noise, put in a service request. But like I said, Tesla are basically pretty much aware of what's going on. And there'll have to be a software update that will fix this problem.
What about if you're picking up a Model Y, Harold?
Nothing you can do, Alex. Just enjoy it, and just suppress your high beams whenever they turn on. The frustrating thing is Elon Musk is an advocate of you should always be deleting parts. The best part is no part. Tesla, in its wisdom, deleted the controls for the high beam off the stalk. The left-hand indicator stalk has been retained, but it's been very much neutered. The old Model Y's left-hand stalk would do indicators, high beams, and washers, your wipers and washer. Now all it does is indication. So there is a button on the left-hand side of your steering wheel that has a little light symbol, and that's to, if you press it during the daytime, it'll just manually put the high beams on while you're pressing the button. At night time, if you're on automatic high beams, if you press the button and hold it down for half a second, while you're pressing it down, it'll put the high beams on full high beam mode. But when you release, after half a second, it'll suppress automatic high beams.
Right, okay.
The thing is, autopilot insists that automatic high beams are active, and every time even if you turn off automatic high beams under your lighting control in your main menu, as soon as you engage autopilot, it flicks it back onto auto. So what it means is every time you see a car coming in the opposite direction, and you want to suppress high beams, then what you have to do is press the button for half a second. You then actually artificially manually flash the people coming the opposite direction before it turns off, which makes you look like a bit of a interesting person. And that's the compromise that you make when you remove a stalk that has, the high beam stalk had two functions. If you pushed it forwards, it would enable high beam. Put it in its neutral position, the middle position, it would suppress high beams. And if you pulled it towards you, it would flash the high beams on. So you're replacing two functions on a stalk with a single button press, And of course, it just becomes a compromise of what you can achieve with a single button press. So, but Alex, yeah, just
Okay.
collect your awesome car, drive it
Excellent.
around like you stole it, and just enjoy it, and know happily that you will have to endure this pain for less numbers of days than those of us who've already got one. So, yeah.
Yeah. Bye bye Model 3.
Oh, look, I always say that my best car is my next car, or
True.
I guess my current car. So, the only thing better than my current car is my next one. So, yeah, of course, you've made a great decision to get a refresh Model Y. They really are awesome.
I agree. Driven too, and love it.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. Des, you got your hand up.
Yeah, keeping it to the headlights. I've got a standard Model Y and driving along the freeway using
So refreshed, is that refreshed or is it the older one?
no, the old one, 2023, I think.
Yep.
Anyway, quite often I'll be going along the freeway and I'll notice my brights on and I turn it off. I'm never sure whether it's because I've indicated and changed lanes, I've knocked it or something like that. I don't think so. But I've never put in a service request because I wasn't sure. I couldn't.
Sorry, you say that your high beams are on?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, they are because they're adaptive. So,
yeah. But
and the thing is, I know for a fact the previous version Model Y, the adaptive, they're actually slightly different. So what you'll notice is when they're active, if you're following a car in front of you, bearing in mind it's not perfect. So if the car is a long distance away, and this is whether you're following it or there's one coming in the opposite direction, it's not perfect. It doesn't instantly suppress high beam in that area. It does have to. The car does have to come a fair bit closer. So, but at least for you, what you can do is you can then just push your stalk
that's right.
backwards or forwards. I forget which way it
Yeah, I
goes
can remember
to
this.
sort of suppress it.
Yeah.
But the adaptive high beams work very well in the current model or the old Model Y, very well. You'll notice that there'll be like a V formation that forms. It sort of like splits the light and there's like a dark cone of light that it sort of emits or doesn't emit.
Okay,
as
that
it's-
explains. Yeah, that explains
Yeah.
why I don't get any hand signals.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
makes
So the previous version Model Y, there are zero issues with the adaptive high beams. Very easy to use, very effective. I've done 7 laps around Australia in my previous Model Y and had no issues whatsoever. And it's sorry, I did have issues on the first few of those 7 laps because it didn't have adaptive high beam. And one of those was when I hit a cow, and that's another long story that we'll save for another time. And adaptive high beams came out a few weeks later and probably would have saved me from that incident. But they work very well, absolutely very well. So yeah, Des, you got no issues. The thing is, when autopilot comes on, by necessity, the car enables automatic high beams by necessity or by policy. So regardless of whether you've disabled them previously, they'll always be re-enabled when you re-engage autopilot. But they work pretty well, and you can use your stalk to suppress it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. Alrighty. Any other questions or comments? No?
I
Yes,
did put in the
James.
chat earlier about Colin Ying, who did his trip to Kalgoorlie. Has anyone heard from him? Because the last post he got to Southern Cross, but then he stopped posting. But it looks like he probably had a successful drive.
Oh, yeah, hopefully. You mean posting on Facebook?
On Facebook, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he posted as far as Southern Cross.
Let me just bring
I was
that
hoping he'd be
up.
on this week.
Yes, oops, sorry.
I posted. I
This
put the
button's
picture up
going a little bit
7:15.
slow. There we go. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he got bored of posting.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully, Colin, yeah, if you come back next week or something, you can tell us how it was. I trust it was a good trip.
Trev was
Hopefully.
a hand up.
Oh, yes, Trev.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I actually forgot to check earlier. to borrow stuff off the club, what's the process? Do you do it through the website to send you a message or an email, or?
Just send me an email. The most direct is secretary at tokwa.org.au.
Yeah.
Or you can give me a buzz on Tokwa's helpline, which is 62623131. Or
I've got a couple
you
of
can-
weeks still. We're
you
off
can
to
give me a
Darwin
call.
first week of July.
you can give me a call or text on my mobile, which is just down. I hope everyone's got that in the chat.
Cool. No worries.
But the 62623131 will get diverted to me in any case.
Oh, okay. I thought that was more of an emergency number, that one.
That's a multi-purpose number.
Cool.
Just
Nice.
just please don't ring at 2 o'clock in the morning because I might be just on the road on the freeway on another lap or something. No, only joking.
No worries. I'll send you a message about borrowing a wheel in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we've got plenty in stock, so it's all good.
Actually, is there anyone in Bunbury that has one? I think I heard before that they're not all stored in Perth.
They're mostly stored in Perth. The club
all
ones
right.
are mostly stored in Perth.
No worries.
Cool. Alrighty. Anyone else have any other questions or comments?
New model, the info regarding the new model, something.
Oh, okay.
strengthening.
So actually, that's a
Small
good
thing.
little segue too, because I'm gonna say something that was probably going to be completely wrong, but if it's not, it'll be great. So the Austin factory is partly closing down over the 4th of July. What's that called? Independence Day. During that week of Independence Day, and they're closing the Model Y line, shutting the Model Y line for a week. But probably more relevant to us in Australia is they're also closing the Cybertruck line, but they're not closing the Model 3 line. So if they were doing just broad maintenance everywhere, you'd think they would just shut the whole joint down and let everyone sort of have their Independence Day week. So what the explanation that I've heard for the Model Y line closing is because the more affordable car the line might be being modified to accommodate the more affordable car. And obviously that's something that Elon Musk has said is going to be announced this summer. And that's the American summer, which is now. So that's interesting, somewhat. But what's more interesting is why are they closing the Cybertruck line? Particularly since the Cybertruck, it's only been produced for about a year and it's well below production capability. So you wouldn't have thought they would have, for lack of a better term, worn out the line to need a lot of maintenance. But what if they had to make some modifications to the line to do a right-hand drive conversion of the Cybertruck?
Yeah, I think the issue that I've read in X, and you've probably read the same, but you read a lot and I read less because I try and keep a low profile. But what they want to do is maximize production on the lines. So if the Cybertruck line, for example, is not at 100%, they will get it to 100% because they'll put the new model in amongst the Cybertruck manufacturing. So that's my understanding of what I've read. Not necessarily using those examples,
No.
but bringing the lines up to 100% is
No.
my interpretation.
Yeah, the Cybertrucks, there's a lot of different things that is only for that actual model, like air bending and other sort of stuff that's not applicable to the other models. So I don't think that.
Agreed, it's odd, but that's the comment
Yeah.
that they want to get the lines up to 100% utilization.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Tesla has stated that the more affordable models,
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
they are going to be built, and they did say the 3 and the Y lines, or maybe they just said they're normal lines. They might have mentioned Model Y or Model 3 sort of interchangeably. Mike, I guess interpreting what you were saying or implying is, are they because of Cybertruck? No, see, the thing is, a line is a line, and it's not like you can make a line shorter or different because you're not putting as many cars through it necessarily. So I think it's more plausible they're altering the line. Now you're right. You could. I don't know how many shifts Tesla is running on, for example, the Cybertruck. I mean, because their numbers are quite low compared to what their capacity is. So they're clearly probably only running one shift a week, or one shift per day, and it might even be for 5 days. So I know, for example, in Berlin, the Model Y lines are only being run. It was either one or two shifts, 5 days a week. Whereas, if a production plant is really at capacity, it's running 3 shifts or more 24/7. So, yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there. I mean, obviously, hindsight, Harry will say, yeah, Harold was brilliant. He fully pegged it, and Cybertruck's coming to Australia by the end of the year. But, and who knows? That would be big news.
Could be.
And
that could be right, Harold. That might be the Cybertruck shutdown, and what was it? The Y
Model
line
Y is for
is the one that, because it's a smaller Model Y supposedly.
Yes, and there are multiple Model Y lines, so they could just basically just alter one or two, or I don't know how many there are, but there's obviously more than one, so they could certainly alter at least one of them to make it more suitable. And although the only thing against the Cybertruck thing is the changes made to make a Cybertruck compatible with right-hand drive is very minor. It's changing the tail light and indicator. Well, the Cybertruck doesn't have rear indicators. It only has a rear section of the brake light that blinks instead of being solid, and they use that as the indicator because in America that's permitted. So it would just be the assembly, the tail light assembly, brake/tail light assembly would be altered for Australia. Obviously, you've got a slightly different steering mechanism, possibly subtly different to fit on the other side, and your pedals will be slightly different, and your dash is slightly different. But I wouldn't have thought there was significant enough difference to close the line. But then maybe they're doing a combination of maintenance and slight modifications for left and right-hand drive adaptation. And like I said, from my point of view, that's the most exciting potential bit of all of it.
Is it also a sorry, just a question, is it also that it's potentially like they won't sell the Model S like here anymore because of the steering? Like,
Yes.
Is it a physical steering situation as opposed to a
So the Model S to this very day still has a direct linkage, a steering linkage from the steering wheel to the rack and pinion steering assembly. Frustratingly, when Tesla brought out the refreshed Model S, they still had an asymmetric bulkhead. And frustratingly, even though Tesla in the previous version of Model S, which you're driving, Chris, and even the one before that, which is the nose cone one, they still produced a right-hand drive version. When they went to the refreshed Model S, they made some changes to the motor mount, well, actually the front motor, and the way it was mounted. And that then actually, Tesla just, I'm going to say negligently, didn't notice that was going to cause them an issue when they went to do a version whereby the steering shaft had to go through the right-hand side of the car rather than the left-hand side. And because that was now no longer possible without modifying that motor mount, Tesla just decided the cost to do that was just too great. And it seems they made the same error, or the subframe of a Model X and a Model S is pretty much the same. So of course the same thing applied for Model X's. They then no longer could be made in right-hand drive. The only way to make them in right-hand drive now is if Tesla moves those two models to having the Cybertruck style steer-by-wire, whereby your steering wheel is just connected to this force feedback motor that's just like a little mount that's sort of mounted on the dash, and there's literally no physical linkage between the steering wheel and the the rack and pinion steering mechanism. And if they did that in the Model S and X, they could then bring them in right-hand drive quite easily. But this latest refresh, they haven't done that. And to be quite frank, they probably won't. They will probably kill off the Model S and X before bothering to ever bring it out in 48-volt mode and steer by wire.
Yeah, because
Cybertruck is different.
when I spoke to the dealership recently, when I was in there just getting some tyres changed and that, and they said, "Oh, do you want to look at some other models? You know, you've had this thing for 8 years or whatever." And it's like, you're trying to sell me something that's not as fast, not as big. It's, they're showing me the Model 3 and it's like, well, there's not, like, they're pretty much Ubers all over Melbourne now, the Model 3.
Yes,
Like,
that's
there's
right.
there's no leg room in the back. It's like, it's a downsell basically, and it goes nowhere near as fast or anything. And I was like, what's the point? I might as well look at something else.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, to be honest, I'd have a look at the performance refreshed Model Y when it comes out. That might get you to swing because it's got plenty of space and it'll have plenty of performance because it's the performance version. So it'll have 0 to 100 figures of probably 3.7 seconds to 100.
Yeah, so fairly, what's mine, 2.7 or something, but yeah, something like that.
Are you 2.7? Oh, okay.
In Ludicrous Plus, I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, no, right, yeah, because you got the P100. Yeah.
But
Just hold on to your car, Chris, and hope you never crash it because there'll be no replacement for it. Literally, there's nothing you can do.
hopefully it'll go up in value. I certainly know the insurance price goes up in value every year.
No, it doesn't go up in value, it goes up in cost. That's two different things. No, I'm being pedantic, but what I mean is I really object to something. I don't object to paying value for money, but when there's an extra cost for no value, I really hate that. And insurance is something that just never seems to it never goes down, and they insure your car for less and less and yet charge you more and more for it.
Yeah, they always tell you as you get older, it'll get cheaper. And you know what? It's never got
It only
cheaper.
does that when you're 25, Chris. When you turn 25, that's when it gets cheaper. And then it just keeps going up.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. All right. Anyway,
Cool.
I'll be quiet
No
now.
worries.
Everyone else can talk.
Anyone else got any other questions or comments?
Well, the good news on insurance is RAC has sold it to NRMA, and I think that's just going to go through the roof. I reckon the next insurance premium we get will be staggering. And
we'll have national insurance prices. So everything where we used to say that the people in the eastern states got ripped off, we're going to go, oh, that's just situation normal.
Well, they got 1.4 billion, I think it was, for the business. So as a member, you can see our fees going down, can't you?
Nope.
Yes. So you mean RAC flogged it for 1.4 billion?
Yes. I'm not sure it's finally through the approval process, but certainly that's the intent. And I can't wait for October till I get my disaster. Last year was an absolute disaster. This is going to be worse.
Can I give everyone a tip? If your insurance and your Tesla comes up for renewal, I just did mine for the second year, and Shannon's turned out to be far cheaper than anyone else.
Wow.
They're normally dearer. That's
the renewal on I was with Allianz the first year. The renewal was $1,800, and Allianz for pretty much the same stuff was $1,187.
Allianz used to be the dearest and the worst. Well, not the worst because RAC is pretty hard, but
yeah, they were the best when I looked around for my first year. They were even better than RAC for me. And
that's good.
This time around, Shannon's and a friend of mine called them up and got the same thing. So under $1,200 for a 1-year-old Model Y.
Yeah, thanks, Colin, because I'm with Allianz for the same reason you said currently. So mine will be up. And I hadn't ever thought of Shannon's for obvious reasons. It's not an immediate one you'd think about.
I've been meaning to actually change to Shannon's because we just got another car and the quote, I thought for the hell of it, get a quote from them for the Tesla. It was $800 cheaper than RAC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're doing something wrong and we're going to realise it and change it, but for now,
You take the price as you get it. If it's you go to the checkout and you go, I want to have this bucket of insurance, please, and
yeah. So I
wow.
got heaps of quotes, and I got a few that were sort of in the 1600 range, and then Shannon's
Yeah.
was below 1200 on their own. So
Mine's $6,500 a year.
Where are you, Chris?
Mm.
Which
Yep,
state are you in, Chris?
in Victoria.
Yeah, well, we normally are the cheapest, but we're not going to be this year. This year's going to be a shocker.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I'm just doing my home insurance at the moment, and RAC is basically $1,000 cheaper than everybody else at the moment for home and contents. So that's in WA, because I'm figuring with all those floods in the east, insurance premiums for eastern states, people with eastern states businesses are going to be up. But we don't have that problem. We haven't had a natural disaster, touch wood, over here for a while. So but it depends what NMRA do, because it wasn't a straight price thing. There's like, it's only a certain small amount of cash that they were paid. The rest of it is for like the customer base here in WA was a certain value, and that was added in, and that goes for a period of time. So it's all one of those funny financial doings. So, but yeah, RAC in cars is not what it was, definitely.
No, it used to be remarkably well priced, and
Yes.
you'd wince at the prices that people in the rest of Australia or in Europe or in America would pay.
Yes.
But I think we were in this la la land of yeah, it was too good to be true, and obviously, as we speak today, it kind of is too good to be true.
So the only catch with insuring a Tesla with Shannon's is you can't do it online. You have to call them. So Tesla
that's
doesn't
good.
show up in the
That's
drop-down
good.
list of makes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's good.
There's nothing
That's
wrong
how
with
RAC used to be.
that. Indeed. Mike Tracy, you got your hand up, and then I'll go straight to you, John, straight after.
Yeah, thanks, Harold. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, got you loud and clear.
I've got a bit of a probably lazy question. I've got a new model Highlander, as you can see behind there. Voice commands. Does the vehicle do voice commands, and what commands will it accept? And how do you do it?
If you press the button, which is
On the right
sorry,
hand.
you got a Highland, so
Yeah.
that'll be a different button. I think you've got your own button actually.
Yeah, it's a microphone button on the
Yes.
right hand side.
So if you say open butthole, it'll open the charge port door. So that's one that'll give you like a bit of a chuckle.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do things like I'm feeling hot, and it'll make the aircon a bit cooler. You say I'm feeling cold, it'll make it a bit warmer. I think you can say increase temperature, decrease temperature, increase fan, decrease fan. I think if you just Google Tesla voice commands, you'll get a whole lot of different commands you can use
So
to do.
it's not like an iPhone, like Siri or something. You have to say hi Siri and then give
No,
the
no,
command.
no. You got to press the button, so the button becomes the Hey Siri.
Okay.
And no, I turned you off, Siri. Go away. Don't you love it when you catch your phone out when you go, I've turned that off, and then you just say those two magical words, and suddenly your phone's got this rainbow border around it, going, "Hello, I'm ready to talk to you." So the push button is the activation, and then you just say a few short commands. Teslas don't yet have Grok integration, which when they do will make them a lot more interesting. But there are a lot of basic voice commands you can execute.
Okay.
It's supposed to be on the summer update, Grok.
Oh, okay. Very
Anytime
good.
now.
I just heard that today. And the other good one for the voice command is open glove box.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know. Thanks,
Yeah.
mate.
That is
actually-
a good one because that's always a difficult one.
I use it all
Pinging
the
around.
time.
So I
Put on an American accent.
To,
No.
to that end, with the glove box, it's always a pain to open the glove box. You can program your left scroll wheel for various functions, and the one I reckon's a killer app is you just do a button press on the left scroll wheel, and you set that to open the glove box, and that's actually quite convenient. I use that all the time.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
No worries. John, you got your hand up.
Yeah, just on the subject of insurance, when I took out insurance with I use the NRMA for my long range Juniper, and so sort of unaware, I suppose. Told them that it was launch series and everything like that, and ended up just with a Model Y insurance. And I said, oh, it's not quite the value, I paid. But they said, oh, no, they don't insure it. They insure it for the value minus stamp duty. And I thought, oh, yeah, well, it's not far off then. I happened to be talking to them during the week, and I was just letting them know I've got tinted windows. Just thought for the record, I better let them know. And got talking further, and the guy I was talking to said, oh, I think there's a mistake here, because he caught on to the fact that I mentioned that I've got launch series, and he says, you're not configured as or not set up as a launch series. So I'm thinking at the time I took out my insurance, there was no such thing as a launch series for the Model Y, and it could have been the original Model Y insurance. So now I've got 25 launch series. They've insured it for another $4,000 a year.
Yep.
And wow, the premium's gone up another $600. It's crazy. So doing a novated lease, sort of haven't been shopping around too hard, because it's effectively tax deductible, but it's something to look into in the next year.
Well, actually, John, if you can be bothered, you could still shop around to try and get a better price and change over and invite the NRMA to give you a full refund, because it's outrageous that the price difference between the launch edition, let's call it 2026, I think they call it sort of 2026 Model Y, because it's there are old Model Ys, or the old version Model Ys that were built in 2025. So it just seems to be easier. They describe it as a 2026 version or the refreshed version. For that insurance to have gone up $600, which is what? Is that about 30% or something like it's gone up compared to the old Model Y? John, you there?
Yeah, about 25, 30%.
Yeah, so for them to up the insurance by 30% for a minor model change is outrageous. They're just taking an opportunity to gouge you, in my personal opinion. And
it might be just the timing as well, of course. There's like one of the other people who've spoken the last few weeks talked about, that was it was just one day the insurance was cheaper than another day. So I guess it's something that they're always reviewing.
Because again, if you look at value for money, I get that what you mean about the novated lease. It's kind of it's a deal that's almost too good to be true, because it's basically structural tax avoidance, but it's done because it's a deliberate act by the federal government to make EVs more enticing, which is basically zero rating them for fringe benefits tax. But having said that, it's still outrageous that the NRMA are inviting you to pay an extra $600 for very little.
Plus the fact that the Model Y refresh is supposed to be cheaper to repair.
Yes.
Because of all the changes they've made to it.
And it actually is. And there's actually, it's funny you say that, Mark, because there are a lot of features that are great. So even something as trivial as where the tow hitch goes. In the previous Model Y, it had like this clip-in panel that was on the vertical part of the back of the car, of the bumper. Now in the refreshed Model Y, it's an L-shaped piece that sort of just clips in, and then there are two quarter-turn screws at the bottom, which you don't even need to engage, but it's just belts and braces. And it's vastly better thought out and better executed. So yeah, you're right, Mark. They've uncharacteristically split the boot, the back of the boot, into a couple of separate pieces, which are deliberately intended to be sacrificial and can be easily replaced if you do if you just tap into the back of a wall or a bollard or something.
Or you open your tailgate up onto the roof. That whole section is now replaceable, just that one piece.
Yes. And that happens all the time.
And that
inadvertently.
would be the whole top section, or at least a fill and respray of the whole
Exactly,
game.
precisely. Whereas now it's almost like
just a small strip.
It's
a spoiler strip.
It's a spoiler strip. Yeah, exactly. It's like a spoiler. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it should be cheaper. So yeah, good on your NRMA for just proving that. Proving that you're not shy to charge a lot of money for not very much.
Maybe we should put it in the category of Optus. They just copped a whack this week, 100 million.
They did too.
There's not much difference in what they're doing to what these others are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, you just say, oh, look, I just had a minor model change. It's just an entry in their database. If it was $100, you go, yeah, okay, but 600, come on, that's just to a loyal existing customer as well, because you're already on the hook, and they're going, no, we're going to just sting you.
They
Just
love
change
loyal
after the
customers.
fact.
Yeah. So what was that? Who said that?
They love loyal customers because they can rip them off every year. If you go to one of these compare companies, they can get you a better deal, and they get commission as well. And that they won't give me a discount for being loyal. In fact, they sting me.
In fact, one thing that go on, Mike.
Sorry to disagree with that. Because this is for home and contents, which is insurance but not cars. I went to the famous Compare place. Absolutely terrible. They provided quotes from people who you've mostly never heard of, like Honey Insurance or Woolies, and none of the big ones, and certainly not RAC, which was heaps cheaper than everybody else at the moment. So I won't bother you with them again.
But that's houses, Mike.
Oh yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, it seems cars is just a different thing. Cars are just different breed. Alrighty. Anyone else got any other questions or comments?
Just one quick one, Harold.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Oh, yeah, go, Mark, and then Mike.
If I spoke to you and Pete, not last week, the week before, just saying because I hadn't got my refresh Model Y then, about the the braking, the regenerative braking, and when I'd got the two higher one, three of the went to try them out, the tri-cars.
Oh,
every time I tried those, there was very little regenerative braking, and I'm pretty sure it was because the batteries must have been actually nearly full. Yes. Since I've had this one, it's been absolutely brilliant, just the same as the other ones.
Great.
So it was definitely the case. But when I spoke to the actual staff there, they said, "Oh yes, a few people have said that you don't seem to get as much regenerative braking with the new ones." But even the staff in the showroom weren't fully aware of it, so that's why I didn't even bother looking at the actual power stage of it, because I don't need there for half an hour, so you don't get a lot of chance to mess around.
No, that's right. That's right.
Isn't there more settings though? Is there two settings?
No,
there is settings, but
not on the refresh. There's not. There's no regen. You can't. Oh no, or maybe I'm wrong. Sorry.
I thought you could have standard and light or something like that. I thought in one of the settings.
Maybe you do.
But I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case.
Yeah, right.
Okay. There's two settings, but the problem is if it's got more than 90% in it, literally it sort of freaks you out if you're used to not using the brake pedal much.
Yeah, precisely.
Exactly.
And it freaks you out when you get to that first corner and you go, because
I'm going to move my foot. That's right. You got to move your foot to the left.
Well, basically, there's nowhere for the power to go.
Having to brake like a whatever.
Yeah, you've actually got to use brake pads like old school, and
like an animal.
Like it's got nowhere to go, but it does freak you out if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
So you've got to be aware of that. That's all.
Yeah. No, it just didn't seem to have as much braking as the other ones. And I didn't get a chance to mess with the settings or anything. And when I spoke to the guys there, they just said, "Yeah, we've had that from a few people that said that." So I just thought, "Oh, that's just miracles. I'll get used to it."
And the thing is, those people would have been Tesla owners that want to try out the brand new car.
Yes, precisely.
And then they would have gone, "Oh, this is different." If you were a ICE car driver, you'd not notice.
You wouldn't notice. No.
In fact, it'd probably be a slightly better experience for them because it
Yeah.
can be for the first half hour or a couple of hours, it can be quite difficult to get used to. Because
Yes.
for an ICE car driver, it'll be a little bit like them driving around in an automatic that's stuck in second gear or
Yeah.
possibly even first, because you know
Yeah.
how it sort of retards.
Yeah.
So I actually reckon that Tesla should have an option where they ask the people that are going for a test drive, have you ever driven an electric car? And if the answer is yes or no, say if the answer is no, then they should say, well, this thing has a thing called regeneration. Here is the setting. When you drive it, and if you're not fully comfortable with what it's doing there and then, just press this button to suppress it.
Yeah.
So that the test drive isn't dominated by the weirdness that is regen,
Yeah.
which once they buy the car, they'll get used to it in a couple of hours and then they'll love it. It'll be the best thing since sliced bread. But for the initial drive, they could get an incorrect perception of what the car is to drive in the longer term.
Yep. That's what happened to me when I got my 3, because they gave us a test drive in a Y, and literally left turn out of O'Connor's gate.
Yep.
The first traffic lights, I hated it because the bloody thing wouldn't stop. Because they had it. Sorry, the thing went to stop.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And I'm going, shit. So I put the accelerator on a bit, and as soon as I let go, it started, and I just hated it immediately. And when we got back, we twisted their arm to test drive the car we wanted to buy, which was the 3, which has 3 settings for this braking. And the chap put it on to whatever it was, the middle one, I think, because the first one is like rolly all the time or something.
Yes.
It's almost like neutral, but not quite.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so I put it onto the middle one, and it was just like a normal auto then. So cool.
Yeah.
And I liked the car after that.
Yes. Yeah.
And
that's
then I
right.
put it on regen, and as you said, in half a day or less even, you're on it.
Yes. Yeah, but it was the initial resistance or the shock. And
it's horrible.
I think Tesla should, well, they should take our advice and anticipate that reaction and have a means of short-circuiting it by just making people aware, if this disturbs you, just push this button and it'll make it more familiar to what you're used to. But trust us, when you buy it, you'll love it and you'll never want to take it off that setting. But
I think this is where the staff should pre-warn people. You know, this is different to an ICE car, and I think if they did that, people would adapt very, very quickly because they know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I agree totally. I mean, I was okay with it because when I got mine, I'd actually been used to driving a manual diesel 1.9 litre Volkswagen Golf diesel, and that thing had tons of engine braking, and I loved it once I got used to it. So when I got back in the Tesla, it had all this engine braking. I thought, brilliant! That's what I really like.
You got the engine braking and no vibration. So it's perfect.
Oh, and no noise, and no smell.
Indeed.
And you could actually see out the rear view mirror because there wasn't a cloud of smoke.
Dearie me. Excellent. Alrighty. Anything else?
So yes, Harold, I was trolling through X as you do, and some of us are of a certain age who know who Mel Brooks is and have heard of films like Blazing Saddles. And because Chris was talking about Ludicrous a while ago, it just reminded me. I learnt from a subsequent post related to Spaceballs 2, for those of us who are old enough to know what that is, where Ludicrous actually came from. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And yep, that's right.
So
Spaceballs
this is what's,
and Plaid.
Yeah, this is what's fantastic about Tesla. They insert stuff from, what should we call it, social history or whatever you want to call it, in all sorts of little hidden places, and you don't put 2 and 2 together until you know.
Well, yes. 42 is the other one, the meaning of life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, that was in Spaceballs, and that is being remade, isn't it? That's being remade now.
That's the impression Mel gave us. Yes.
Yeah.
And Mel, did you see the full X post from him where it?
No.
I wonder if you can quickly find it because it's excellent.
I'm surprised he's still alive because he must be.
He's looking older. He's looking older, but he still looks sprightly enough.
He must be in his 90s by now.
or something like
So
that.
98.
But,
He's 98.
98.
Wow.
Okay.
They're planning to
well,
release
as
it
I
on
say,
his
it's worth
100th
looking at the
birthday.
post if you can drag it up, because it's, so those of you who have an X account, just search for Mel Brooks and Spaceballs and you'll find it.
and if anyone who's I don't know if it's in all of the Teslas, but in the Model S, the radio goes to 11 because apparently Musk is a fan of is a fan of Spinal Tap. So
Yes. Is it the
goes to 11?
Mike? Is it the pinned post? I think it is.
It might be, I don't know.
I think
Under Mel Brooks's account, it could be, yes.
Let me just turn my
Because the intro
sound
before
off.
he speaks, which goes for, let's say, 30 seconds or something.
We'll probably get a copyright strike, but that's okay. It's worth it.
Oh, you can turn off record, can't you?
Oh, no, it's all right. Oh, are we going to go? There we go. Oh, can you hear that? No, I can't hear it.
I'm not sure there's actually any speaking at this point.
It's just theme music.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's all right because it's a bit annoying actually. So
Yeah, but I can't hear it, so we can't. That's not going to work.
Because you won't hear Mel at the end.
No, I might hear Mel at the end. Sorry about that. I
That's
must
all right.
have something wrong with my
But
audio
it's so
setting.
funny with all those prequels and sequels and sequels to prequels and this and
Yeah,
that.
so
It's just-
prequel trilogy, a sequel trilogy, a sequel to the prequel, a prequel to the sequel, countless TV spin-offs, 2 Dunes, 7 Jurassic Parks.
But there's been only one Spaceballs.
36
until now.
movies with 2 different Robert Downey Jr.'s. DCU attempt number 1. Animated Lion King. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, yeah. If
And
you
at the end he says, well, we asked everybody what they wanted and they didn't want it, so we're going to give it to them anyway. Typical Mel Brooks. Excellent.
there's so many scenes in that movie that are great. You know, with Princess Leia and she's got the can earmuffs
Yes.
on. You know, it's just there's so many, and I mean, yeah, and we don't want to get to Blazing Saddles because it's. I mean, you just couldn't. It's just too politically incorrect these days. But geez, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny
anyway.
that I went into the newsagent near where I live, and he's a middle-aged chap, younger middle-age, and he'd never heard of Mel Brooks or Blazing Saddles. And I'm going, what?
Oh,
What? People have a deprived life if they haven't watched those.
They clearly
Young
do.
Frankenstein was magnificent.
Oh yes, yes.
I watched
Anyway,
that.
sorry to
I
sidetrack
watched
with a
that
bit of
3
humour, but
times
I
before
thought
I
that was quite good.
realised. I watched Young Frankenstein 3 times before I realised when she's walking up the staircase, saying "Stick to me at night." The stairs can be very treacherous with a candelabra. The actual candelabra isn't lit. No lights
Oh,
on any of the candelabras. Just stick close to me. That was the 3rd time before I noticed. There's just little gems stuck in all of his stuff. You can
yes,
watch them 4 times and still find stuff.
exactly. Yes, yeah. Classic. And I mean, wow, at 98, it's still going. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks
Right.
quite good.
great innings.
Shows what
Oh.
bagels will do for you.
Ah, dear. All right. Anything else? We're in the last half hour of the show, almost approaching. Or we can. Chuck, have you got? I see Chuck's joined us from the future, just like Chris has joined us. Got any charging news, Chuck?
Hang on, sorry, I'm just getting my audio and video lined up.
Got your audio, got
Right
your
there.
video.
I'll just move it to the other screen, so I'm actually looking at you while I'm talking. There
I
we
mean,
go.
there is news. Sorry, I've got news. The
Yep.
48th and 49th WAEV network chargers
Oh, yeah.
sites have finally been made live and operational. Frustratingly, because Horizon Power has not built their own standalone power supply at Kaiguna and Majura Pass, the Kaiguna site is at a reduced power of 30 kilowatts, regrettably, because it's waiting for some upgrades that the Kaiguna Roadhouse are going to do with some Horizon Power funding in September or later. So,
Or microgrid type thing.
yeah, so what Horizon Power, I haven't got a drone shot handy, but if you look at some of the PlugShare posts, probably Sandfire, yeah, actually, we could probably look at the Sandfire one or the Bidgidanga one. Let's just see if I can do that. So that's what Horizon Power actually do themselves, or they get done on their behalf. The issue is it costs about $600,000 for that setup to be supplied and installed. Let's hope that I've got a handy dandy drone shot. Come on, loading. I think that's a drone shot there. Okay. So this is the Bidgidanga or the Lagrange setup. So you've got a couple of long stretches of solar panels. You've got your battery storage here and inverters, and then you've got your emergency backup generator, and then you've got the normal Horizon Power kiosk. So this setup here, the standalone power supply setup, battery energy storage system, that costs about $600,000 installed. Horizon Power are paying a much smaller figure to a couple of the roadhouses to effectively self-fund an improvement to their system, which is kind of mutually beneficial. It costs Horizon Power less money. It means that the roadhouses will then install a solar system and some battery storage, and it's kind of, I guess, a bit of a win-win situation. But like I said, unfortunately for the Kaiguna site, the current powerhouse is not capable of running at the full, if you call it that, 50 kilowatts. So it's now at a reduced rate of 30 for the next several months at least. And then that would truly become the completion. Well, that now represents the completion of the WAEV network, some 6 months after the WA government declared it finished in January. But I think there are some charges on the Eastern Seaboard that have been newly done, Chuck, if I'm not mistaken.
There have. There's been a couple, not ones that are newly built, but there's a couple that have started being built. Two of them are in Queensland on the coast. So that's one at Maryborough.
Oh yes. I regrettably, I remember looking to my left as I was going past.
Yeah.
But I didn't know they were building it yet, and I really regret that because I probably would have seen the mound of dirt they were digging up, which would have been. I would have actually stopped and taken a photo, but I did see that. So that's Maryborough. That's really good.
Yeah, that one's right on the highway. I think it's at a servo on the highway. Yep.
Next to the Olivers, I think.
Yes,
I think it's next to the Olivers. Yep.
Yep, that's the one. The other one in Queensland is at Tully, which you would have to detour to visit that one next time. So it's north of Townsville. So
yes, that's right. I have to chuck a lefty instead of a righty at Townsville, which I have driven past there, but that Tully hadn't been done yet.
Yeah.
The same as there's a supercharger now in Parkes that I'd actually visited Parkes a couple of years ago, but it wasn't built then, and now it is. And that's where, I don't want to brag, but there was and Chuck, thanks for the call out. That was funny there was a question on the Tesla Motors Club forum, teslamotorsclub.com.au.
Yeah.
Sorry, teslamotorsclub.com, and you go to the Australian one, and there were questions about, how many unique superchargers have you visited? And this I think this first post was put out in March, and I just never saw it. And then Chuck had a tongue-in-cheek thing saying, just as well Harold Murphy or Rob Dean haven't joined the chat. And I thought, now I've got a challenge. And actually, Chuck, it took me about 2 hours to work out how many sites I visited. And the way I did it was I went through all my X posts and just looked for the word supercharger.
Yep.
And I had to go through since 2018 and count up and list all of the sites. And I think it was 72?
75?
Or 75?
74.
Or 74. Maybe it was 70. One of the. It was in the 70s anyway.
I'll bring it up here while you're talking.
And I listed them all out. I mean, some of them don't exist. So St. Leonard's is no longer in existence.
Yeah. 72. Yep.
72. And I think I ripped myself off because I'm sure I went to one of the eastern suburb superchargers in Melbourne, but I just didn't tweet about it, so therefore I didn't add it. I forget which one.
It should be in your app, shouldn't it? In your charging history. Doesn't your Tesla keep supercharger charges?
Well, what frustrated me was I know in the past, particularly for my Model X, there was like an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV file you could download, and it had the details of every single charging session. But I can't find that in my Tesla account anymore. I think that feature's now gone. So no, I had to rely on X posts to look at. And I had got an Excel spreadsheet, did a column, and then every now and then I'd have to put it into alphabetical order. And there'd be quite a few repeats, so I'd have to scan and go, no, I've already done, Horsham a zillion times and, whatever. But yeah, it's quite surprising that they do add up. But it sounds like 72 is a lot. But I think, according to PlugShare, there's 148 supercharger locations. So I'm not even halfway through.
I can tell you exactly. There are, in Australia, if you count the ones which are closed as well, there's 168.
Yeah, so I think there's probably.
Sorry, that includes planning and construction ones. If you just count the open ones, it's 121.
121. Oh, okay, so I'm a bit more than halfway. Okay, well, that's cool.
Ones that are open and ones that have opened and are still open. Yep.
Right. Well, if and when Tesla puts out their Cybertruck and I do a hot lap, then after that I might try and do a meandering one and collect all the stragglers. But because I mean, all the WA ones are done. I'm done and dusted for that. That's very difficult.
Can I interrupt there? Because I was going to ask, isn't there a new supercharger going in down south, Busselton, Bunbury, or Dunsborough or something? I can't remember which one of those it is.
Yes, Busselton, right.
Yeah. Cool, thanks.
And there will be one going in Merredin, and there'll be one going in, but probably no time soon. Although it's on PlugShare as a site, so that must have been because, Chuck, you'd know this, that was probably the Merredin Shire probably have documented it. Although, no, I don't think it's not on Supercharge, so it
often
might not be.
on PlugShare, it's on
PlugShare.
PlugShare can just be some random person saw it on the coming soon map once, or
right. True. Yeah, that is true. There are quite a few superchargers coming to WA soon, but others not. So there's no reason to believe that Merredin or Southern Cross, and presumably therefore Kalgoorlie, although there's been we've never seen any sign of a Kalgoorlie one, but you would never put a charger at Merredin and Southern Cross supercharger if you didn't also put one in Kalgoorlie. I mean, or Coolgardie at least. It just doesn't make sense to do 2 out of the 3.
The only the only ones on supercharge.info for WA are Merredin and Greenhead up north.
Yes. Yeah. Well, frustratingly, I mean, the Albany supercharger, we knew about it in council documents, and yet they never had it on their rollout map. And then they just opened it, and it just sort of appeared out of nowhere. Which
it's very random. The map Tesla updates their website map fairly regularly these days. It's like every month, and they'll add dots and they'll take dots off.
Yes.
But often they'll take them off when we know they're coming, and in a couple of instances they've taken them off when we know they're under construction at this moment, and they'll take the dot off the map for some reason. So I don't trust those disappearances as being necessarily
bad news.
A sign that they're disappearing. I think that happened with Busselton, didn't it? I think it disappeared and then was re-added.
Yeah, Busselton's on the latest one.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Right.
Now,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think earlier it was removed.
Yeah, I checked 2 days ago. So
cool.
Yeah, I found it on PlugShare because I'm interested in doing a long trip because basically I haven't been any further than Mandurah at this point in my 3. And
sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, it's cute.
Yeah. And so I when the salmon are on, I'd go to Yallingup for a day fish, right? So 4 o'clock in the morning, get up, go Yallingup, fish all day, come back home for 9 or 10 o'clock. And I stopped doing that because the petrol price made it was going to be a $200 a day trip. But
so
now
expensive salmon.
Expensive salmon. Oh, it's great fun if you've never done it. But anyway, whatever. So now I've got this electric cheaper car. It's back on, and the Bustleton supercharger will be ideal if I've used too much on the way down. I suspect with the long range I might be able to get there and back, but I'll be down to like a couple of %. So this is north suburbs down to Yallingup and back.
But just change, sorry, not change, just charge at Eton while you're having a comfort break, having a coffee or a wee or
I don't
whatever.
do that, but Bustleton would be
Yeah,
great
okay.
because on the way home I'll pick up
Yeah.
a bite to eat, and it would normally be Dunsborough, but there won't be a supercharger in Dunsborough, so I'll just stop at Bustleton. It'll be perfect. So next salmon season, if it's up and running, here I come.
Is there a date, Paul? Do you recall?
No,
okay.
it just says
In development?
yeah, they've got some new
Wording.
words, and that wording, yeah, has changed, sort of stuff, like they did for Southern Cross and Aussie Park, because the Aussie Park's one's up as well.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because I've been not saying it because I didn't know it was widely
Yeah,
known,
so-
but now it is
Yeah.
widely known. Michael, sorry, Vince, I'll get to you
Vince,
in 2 seconds.
yeah.
Sure.
Let's just go Tesla's website, charging and find, and have a look. As the website loads, come on, Tesla. Actually, it's probably my computer because it's a little bit overloaded. And then we'll just change to superchargers.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so we've got Aussie Park.
Aussie Park, yep.
Southern Cross is just the winner, so that doesn't mean much. And we got Bustleton. Okay, so it's only Aussie Park and Bustleton that's showing in WA. And they are saying it is, in development, yes.
Yeah, that's the word, yeah.
Which means it's it's coming sometime. And Q1 2023, and it will not be done before Q1 2026.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
There is a trick you can use sometimes to get more information. If you look in the URL for that Southern Cross site, if you just scroll across the URL to the right,
Yep.
and it says location equals, and there's a number.
Oh, sorry,
Or
I
double O.
can't actually see it because just 2 seconds.
Oh,
Because
that's
I've
all
got the Zoom control doodads. Let me just lower this down a little bit.
That's right.
Sorry.
I don't think there's any actual useful info there right now, so I won't go through all the details. But basically, you can use that number and go to a different supercharger that's active and paste the number into the URL, and all this mucking around.
Yep.
And then if you view the source of that page, you might find some content. Now, it just so happens with Southern Cross, there's nothing there. But
Okay, so if we try Bustleton, so that's the URL there. So we're saying going to the end. So which was the number? Was it this one here, location?
Yep, that's it, location. Yep.
And then what do you do then?
So just copy that number.
Just the number. Yep.
Yep, and then just click on any other active supercharger. Yep, and then on the little page on the left, the little window on the left, just scroll down a bit. Where it has the supercharger address and stuff.
Yep.
And just click on View All Tesla Locations, and then just click on Superchargers under Australia there. Then just click on any of those names. And then in the URL there, edit out Abbotsford Vic and paste the number in.
Oh.
It's a bit of a maze.
Right.
That's right. And it gives you an address. It always now it isn't always useful, but sometimes the address there is different to what the dot on the map shows.
Oh, which means it's probably more likely to be accurate.
Yeah, well, maybe if you
okay.
if you view the source, there's other things you can find, which is probably not all that interesting at the moment. But
That's right. Is that?
Yeah. Okay.
Tick on line wrap.
Oh, sorry. Where's that?
Sorry,
line
up
wrap.
the top
Gotcha.
left. Yep. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see the address is shown, up a bit. Sorry. up a little bit more. Yeah, kind of there. At the bottom of the screen you have now, you can see the address is shown a few times there.
Address, Prince Street, address, latitude, country.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
sometimes those values will be different to what's shown on the screen. So,
and if it is, that's a better indication of possibly that being more valuable information than just a generic Google's just decided that's what the center of that right.
Yeah,
That's cool because it's a shopping center.
Yes, and there are even fields that say development, lease agreement, a bit more detailed, that sort of thing. So
wow, that's probably the best info you've given us, Chuck. That's like
if you have spare time, it's a good thing to find. It's a good thing to play about.
Thumbs up.
Well, you've suddenly made us create some spare time in our day. That's awesome. You showed us how the sausage is being made there, Chuck, and we'll all be on the sausage making crew.
That's it. That's it.
Fantastic. Oh, thanks for that. That's really valuable information for us. Some of us who are a bit fanatically interested.
Yeah. So if any of you are web developers or anything like that, you can probably use that to access that data. You could probably code something up to access that data and display it in a nicer fashion.
Yeah,
so you
indeed.
can have a little screen on the top of the site that shows status of all unbuilt sites in Western Australia or something. I don't know.
Or anywhere in the world for that matter. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for that.
That's cool. Little trick.
That's the best trick we've heard this year, I dare say. I reckon that's a perler.
It's definitely up there.
And we waited for episode 222 to reveal it, so that's awesome.
That's right.
Very auspicious.
Tesla IT people are just spitting out their coffee.
Yeah, don't tell Tesla that you've found that because they'll probably stop it now.
Well, it was funny. Speaking of like web pages and stuff, there was a while where the URL for the Perth supercharger, the mythical Perth supercharger, rather than WA, it said Perth, Washington. Because someone had seen WA and went, oh, that's just Washington. So we actually said Perth, Washington in the URL for quite a while. Vince, you got your hand up patiently.
Hi, Harold. Yes. I got a Model 3 2022. I do about 200 Ks a day traveling to and from work, coming from Northam. Next month, I'm off to Sunshine Coast in Queensland and returning, so a long trip. What would you say would be the most challenging part, I assume it's the Nullarbor, for charging between here and once I'm in South Australia, superchargers, easy. You mentioned Kalgoorlie and a few others that they've done some work on.
So the most challenging is a Nullarbor Roadhouse if you traverse during the daytime. However, to be honest, the Nullarbor now is pretty straightforward. So basically, going to Kalgoorlie is easy. You don't even need to use. Oh, sorry, you live in Northam.
Close to Northam. Close to Northam.
Yeah. So you just go to Merredin. You can charge at Southern Cross, Coolgardie, Norseman, all easy. Balladonia, that's all WAV network now. Kaiguna. Kaiguna is a little bit slow, but you can make it just charge a bit more fully. So when are you doing this trip?
So probably July, middle of July.
Yeah, okay. So what you do is at Balladonia, you charge up until your rate of charge falls below 30 kilowatts.
Okay.
Depending on where, look, if you're going to overnight somewhere, none of this matters. But if you're continuing on, then at Balladonia, charge until your rate of charge goes to 30 kilowatts. Then go to Kaiguna. And then at Kaiguna, it will be a reduced rate of 30 kilowatts. But what you do is this is the best way to do road trips, is when you are at a charger, put in your car's navigation your next destination, your next charging hop.
Yep, because that'll tell you what charge you've got left.
No, it'll tell you what the distance is.
Yep.
And then it'll also tell you what it estimates you'll have left right now as you're charging.
Yep.
But you can just do a few figures. So did you say you got a long range or a standard range Model 3?
No, standard. So 350 max.
So just rule of thumb, a standard range, if you allocate, say, 54 kilowatt hours, so 54,000,
Yep.
and you then get the kilometers, and you just divide 54,000 by the kilometers you've got to go, which
Yep.
is say if it's 100 kilometers, that's if you divide that, then that's 540. That means you need to achieve 540 watt hours per kilometer to make it. Now what you can do is you get 54,000, divide by the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and no, sorry. When you do a trip, you'll see your current trip, or since charge, it'll have watt hours. And a Model
Yep.
3 will get roughly, on the chip seal road, 170 watt hours per kilometer,
Yeah,
say.
that's about right. Yep.
So then say if you need to do a journey of 200 kilometers, you
Mm-hmm.
get 170 times 200 is 34,000. You
Right,
divide
so
that by
34 kilowatts. Yep.
34 kilowatt hours. You divide
Yeah,
that by
kilowatts.
54,000, and that's 63%.
Okay.
So you know that you could roughly, if you left at a state of charge of 63%, you would make it to your destination with zero. Now, obviously, you
Right.
don't want to do that. You want to leave more like 70% or 75%.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
use that as a way of quickly seeing how long it's going to take me to charge
Okay.
up to the correct level by moving the charge slider temporarily down to 70%. And
Okay.
it'll tell you it'll get to that state of charge in 20 minutes.
Right.
And
Very
then
good.
I set a timer and go 20 minutes, then I can go. That's because I
Yeah,
want to
right.
be very efficient.
Yeah,
But
sure, sure,
that's
sure.
just like a
Not
little
working.
pro tip. But basically, so you've got Kaiguna, slightly slower rate of charge. The
Yep.
next location is Majura Pass. So this
Yep.
is the charger that Jacko. That's the last WAV network charger. I don't actually think. Oh, the other thing is always zoom in. So there are actually two pins here, and people often don't zoom in. And it looks like oh no, maybe that's the newer pin. Then there's no photo. So that's the latest fast DC charger that the WAV network has installed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Majura Pass. Then you go to Mundrabilla, and that works fine. It ramps very slowly, but don't worry about it. The challenge is there's a 340 kilometer gap between Mundrabilla and Yalata.
Yeah,
Now,
right. Yep.
Yalata only charges at 30 kilowatts roughly, which is
Mm-hmm.
slow, but it's vastly better than the Nullarbor Roadhouse
Roadhouse, yeah.
NRMA charger, which the NRMA always laments how they always get negative publicity about their chargers, and that's because let's have a look. 9th of June, Adrian, port 2A slow to 22 kilowatts before plugging in, but ramped up to 70. Not too bad. Again, he then said 22. Sometimes it works okay, but when I used it, it went to 40 and then went down to 9.5. And if you view more posts, it just gets worse and worse results.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but if you're overnighting at Nullarbor Roadhouse,
Yep.
there's no problem because you can then plug in where the laundry is, where their hotel section is, and it's near a water tank. That photo's wrong. This person here and that one, same people, they didn't zoom in, so they picked the wrong pin because they picked the pin that was on top, which was
Right.
the other charger. But around in fact, there's the back of the laundry there. You come in
Yep.
just to the right-hand side of this,
Yep.
which is on the left-hand side of the site, the west side, and
Yep.
then you just plug in to, there's a Delta charger. I can't zoom in, but there's a Delta charger just there, DC
Sure.
charger, 22 kilowatts,
Okay.
and that works really well. And you can then just go to sleep or whatever and wake up in the morning and you'll be
Sure.
fine.
Sure. Sure.
But the NRMA charger is notoriously unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
If you're overnighting though, and it does put out 9.5 kilowatts and it keeps doing it, you'll sort of be okay, but I wouldn't risk it. I would just, if you're overnighting, just plug into that Delta charger. And,
Yeah, right. Forget about the other
and-
one. Yep.
And then, yeah. But if for whatever reason you can't use the Delta charger, then do try to use the NRMA one, but just be prepared just to keep an eye on it for a little bit. But Ulata is not very far away. So if you're fairly fully charged at Mundrabilla,
Yep.
you could make it, well, nearly make it to Ulata, or just make it to Ulata with some charging at Nullarbor. Once you hit
Yep.
Ulata, yes, it is a bit of a slow charger. It's 30 kilowatts, but Ceduna is not very far away. And after you hit Ceduna, it's just a land of milk and honey. It's just,
Yep.
then it's just no longer an issue. And
Fast easy charges all the way.
you're in the
from-
first world. You've then entered the first world, and then everything's easy.
Yep. Great. Thank you.
No worries. Absolute pleasure.
Enjoying all these conversations. They're very enlightening. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the great thing is we're all learning. It doesn't matter how long we've had our cars for. There's a very good chance that someone who has just bought their car will
Yep.
tell one or some or all of us something that none of us knew. So it's a lot of fun. It really
Yep.
is.
Thanks.
Alrighty. We're sort of getting towards the end of the show, so maybe any last questions or comments?
How did you go with that charger that you needed the hose for on your last lap?
Oh, at Richmond. So what happened was, and I showed this, I think, last week, Damo, was on my 9th lap, I joined two pieces of hose together with a joiner that I got at the hardware store around the corner. When I came back to Richmond, I don't know, 3 weeks later, obviously the Eureka, one of the offshoots of Queensland's energy company, or whatever you call it, an energy utility, obviously hadn't fixed the charger. So, but the actual little joiner was missing. So, and I think it was earlier in the morning, and I might have been on a Sunday or something. So I didn't bother with the hardware store. I just got my coffee cup and went to the tap and filled it, and that basically sort of splashed or chucked the water through the perforated screen towards the radiator. And the thing is, because the heat content of water is vastly greater than air, you don't actually need a lot of water to cool the radiator or cool the coolant that's flowing through the radiator. So I just did that a couple of times, maybe once every 10 minutes or so, because you really don't need much. And it was fine. It worked perfectly fine. So
Take a coffee cup.
Make sure you've got a cup of some sort, which most people will have, or if you've got like one of those pump squirty bottles or something, and you don't need a lot of water. If you've got a spray bottle for Windex or something, if you had a pinch, you could use that and it would work. And it's going to be an issue because there are two kinds of tritium units, those that have failed and those that are going to fail. And unfortunately, about a third of the WAEV network charges are these tritium RTM units, and they will fail. So their radiator fan will fail sometime into the future. Now, Horizon Power have got better alert systems, so when they get a fault condition, that's flagged on their dashboard, and they will go out and do something about it much more proactively than Eureka in Queensland will do.
Why are they still installing these tritium chargers if they've gone bust?
Well, they've been bought out. They've been bought out
okay.
by a subcontinental company. Yeah, it's madness in my personal opinion. On paper, they're a brilliant design because all the power electronics are hermetically sealed in literally a hermetically sealed compartment. And the only thing that basically touches the environment is the cooling radiator and the 12-volt cooling fan. So on paper, it's a superior way of housing the electronics than, say, something like a Kempower, which is purely air-cooled. And the frightening thing on something like a Kempower unit is, I never forget in Northampton, the doors were open and I could see ants crawling in and out of the network, the RJ45 network receptacle. And I'm thinking, oh, these ants are everywhere inside this unit, and ants and high voltage don't mix very well. But thankfully they put some pretty good poison there and it's okay. But like I said, on paper, tritium should have been better, but there's probably a combination of lack of preventative maintenance and some poor design decisions or component decisions that are causing these to fail. Another thing that the tritiums will do is all of their screens will fail and go black completely. Like I saw in Charters Towers, for example, just completely black screen. But at least you can still use it on the app or the RFID card. But yeah, that's it as far as tritiums. It's just what's happening. But yeah. Alrighty. Any last question or comment before we get Pete to see out this awesome show?
Harold, just quickly, obviously, you know, these problems are well known by yourself and presumably Horizon Power.
Yep.
So are they planning for this? Have they got extra parts on hand?
I don't know. I've yet to have some more detailed discussions about it, but they are certainly more proactive as far as, and I did sort of explain, you would probably get an error such as over temperature alarm. And I sort of said, you know, if it's a coolant over temperature alarm, it means that your cooling fan has failed because you'll keep making heat, but it won't actually be leaving the coolant loop. So over temperature on the coolant means the cooling fan's failed. If you get a different over temperature alarm, it'll be because the circulating pump that circulates the fluid to make it go from the electronics down to the cooling fan, if that fails, you can't actually do anything about that because you can't forcibly move the coolant yourself by the side of the road. But the answer I got back was that they've got structures in place so that things like alarms will be flagged and actioned very quickly. But no, I don't know. I doubt very much, Pete, that they've got parts yet. But that's absolutely something I'll be suggesting vehemently, that they need a minimum package of parts in strategic locations so you can quickly do things like swap out a fan. Like I said, the cooling fan, to be honest, is the least important failure, because as long as anyone has that knowledge of what to do to get yourself going, it's easy. So you've got a squirty bottle, spray a bit of mist into the radiator between the little perforations of the cover, or a coffee cup or a bucket or anything. Just chuck a bit of water and it will take the heat. You don't need lots. You don't need a hose. You don't need a lot of water, but that will work. But yeah, I'll be following that up as soon as I can, Pete. Because like I said, unfortunately, sadly, it's not a matter of if these fail. It's simply a matter of when and how quickly it can be resolved. Until perhaps sometime a number of years into the future, I dare say Horizon Power will just have to do what other charge point operators have done, and that is to remove the tritiums altogether and replace them, which again is just a matter of time because it will have to happen. But cool. All right. Any last comments or questions before we wrap this up? I think we're all good. All right. Pete.
What very last week?
Oh, no. If
Comment
it's got
question.
anything, no, nothing about that one. No, didn't get a photo. Nothing to see here. Move along. It's all good. Pete, how would you round out an awesome show like this as if I didn't already know? And be good.
As always, stay safe, stay sustainable, stay modest, stay ahead of the curve.
And the best way to do that is buy a Tesla, join TOCWA, and ask us anything about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, modesty, and abundance. Have a wonderful week, everyone, and I really do look forward to seeing you on next week's episode of TOCWA's Ask Us Anything. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Harold. Good night.
Good night, Harold. Night, Pete. Night, everyone.
Good night.